So students, we have to start with the quantitative credit control measures. The objective of adopting quantitative credit control measures is to control and regulate the availability and cost of the money. Okay, availability of money means the volume of money supply in the economy, that how much money supply is there, what are the value of currency circulating in the economy at a particular point of time. Then the cost of the money, whether the loans are cheap or they are expensive. If I'm saying that loans are cheap in nature, that means I am getting loans from the commercial banks at very less interest rates. And if I'm saying that loans or money has become very expensive, then that means that loans that we are taking from the commercial banks, they are charging high interest rates. So that is the cost of the money or credit. So the first method of quantitative credit control is bank rate. Although it is the traditional and old method, it is not in that much use in India right now, but you should know that what it is. See, bank rate is that discount rate at which the commercial banks take loans from the central bank, or it is that rate of interest at which the central bank gives loan or sanctions loans to the various commercial banks. So your bank rate or the discount rate is that minimum rate at which the central bank gives loans or advances to the commercial banks or rediscounts the first class bills of exchange on government securities. That means the securities that the commercial banks have to keep with the your central bank for getting the loans was your bills of exchange or government securities. Now we have to see how this rate is used to control the credit in the economy. Okay, the major thing that we have to see is that how this bank rate is used to control the credit flow or to control the availability and cost of money in the economy. See, here we can show it with the help of this example, that there is the central bank. Okay, there is a central bank and they give loans to various commercial banks, and the commercial banks gives loans to the public. This we all know, that the central bank gives loans to the commercial banks when they need, and the commercial banks gives loans to the public. So the rate at which the central bank is giving loan to the commercial bank is known as the bank rate, and the rate at which the commercial banks gives loan to the public, it is known as the lending rate. It is known as the lending rate. So we will take two situations, whether there is inflation in the economy or whether there is recession in the economy. Inflation, we all know what inflation is. Inflation is that situation when the prices of the goods and services are increasing, and it happens due to the increase in the when there is excess demand in the economy, that we have studied. Okay, and recession is that situation when there is unemployment in the economy, there is less aggregate demand in the economy. Okay, so how this bank rate policy can be used to tackle inflation or recession? Okay, we take an example. For example, the central bank is giving loans to the commercial banks, that is the bank rate is 5%. Okay, they are giving loans to the commercial banks at the interest rate of 5%, and commercial banks are giving loans to the public at 7% because they will keep some sort of their profit margin also. Okay, so they are giving loans to the public at 7%. Now we assume that in an economy inflation occurs, बहुत महंगाई होने लगी इकोनॉमी में क्योंकि एग्रीगेट डिमांड बहुत बढ़ गई है. लोग डिमांड बहुत कर रहे हैं और चीजें महंगी होने लगी इकोनॉमी में। तो इस चीज को कंट्रोल करने के लिए द ऑब्जेक्टिव ऑफ द सेंट्रल बैंक वुड बी to reduce the money supply, to reduce the availability of the money supply in the economy, or to increase the cost of the money so that कम से कम पैसा पब्लिक तक जाए और उनकी एग्रीगेट डिमांड कम हो, so that we can control the situation of inflation. Okay, so what they will do, for instance, when they will increase their bank rate, वो सेंट्रल बैंक कमर्शियल बैंक्स को महंगे इंटरेस्ट पे, ज्यादा इंटरेस्ट पे लोन देने लगेंगे, तो कमर्शियल बैंक्स भी पब्लिक को ज्यादा इंटरेस्ट रेट पे लोन देंगे, तो पब्लिक डिमोटिवेट होगी, कम से कम लोग लोन लेंगे। ओके, जब कम लोग लोन लेंगे, इकोनॉमी में कम इन्वेस्टमेंट होगा, तो इन्फ्लेशन की सिचुएशन टैकल करी जा सकती है एग्रीगेट डिमांड को कम करके या सप्रेस करके। ऑलराइट, ऐसे अगर इसकी अपोजिट सिचुएशन हुई, दैट देयर इज सम रिसेशन इन द इकोनॉमी, ओके, दैट मींस लोगों के पास पैसा नहीं है खर्च करने के लिए, डिमांड बहुत कम है इकोनॉमी में, तो जो करंटली गवर्नमेंट कर रही है, सेंट्रल बैंक कर रही है, तो व्हाट दे विल डू, दे विल रिड्यूस, द सेंट्रल बैंक रिड्यूसेस द इंटरेस्ट रेट, द बैंक रेट। फॉर एग्जांपल, उन्होंने इसको 4% कर दिया। ओके, so now the commercial banks को भी 4% पे जब लोन मिल रहा है, so they will be able to give loans to the public at cheaper interest rate, at cheaper lending rates. So हो सकता है उसको 6% कर दे। Okay, so more and more people will take the loans, and the demand, the aggregate demand will increase in the economy, and when the aggregate demand increase, the national income increase, the growth rate increase, the employment increase, and the problem of recession can be controlled. So this is how the bank rate will be used to tackle inflation and recession. But this bank rate is a very traditional method. It is the old method. Currently, this RBI uses the repo rate, which is same like bank rate only. The concept is same. The majorly repo rate is used in India to control the availability and cost of the credit. So now we will see what is repo rate, what is reverse repo rate, and how they will be adjusted to control the inflation or recession in the economy, or to correct the inflationary pressure or the recessionary pressure in the economy. See, the concept of repo rate is same like of the bank rate. Repo rate is that rate of interest, okay, or it is also known as the repurchase rate, at which the central bank gives loans to the commercial bank. Mainly short-term loans they give. Okay, short-term or medium-term loans they give to the commercial banks. That is your repo rate. And how this repo rate will be used to tackle inflation and recession, it is same like the bank rate is used. Okay, in case of inflation, your repo rate will be increased so that the commercial banks get expensive credit, they get the cost of the money can be increased, and the commercial banks are able to give less loans in the market. All right, and if there is any recessionary pressure in the economy, then the opposite thing is done, the repo rate is reduced so that the commercial banks get the cheap loans and they can forward cheap loans to the people. Right now, the repo rate, the government has, after this COVID thing, 2 or 3 times the repo rate was reduced by 0.25 basic points. All right. So it is same. So repo rate, the government uses the repo rate to generally to inject the money into the market. Okay, to inject the money into the market. Then what is reverse repo rate? Reverse repo rate, many times the difference between repo rate and reverse repo rate has been asked. So it is a very important topic. Repo rate में क्या होता था? Central bank लोन देती थी किसको? Commercial banks को. That means the flow of credit, the flow of money was from the central bank towards the commercial banks. But what happens in the reverse repo rate? Opposite thing happens, that these commercial banks gives loans to the central bank. Okay, in this opposite thing happens. Reverse repo rate is that interest rate at which the central bank or the commercial bank gives loans to the central bank, just opposite of what was happening in the repo rate. So how the condition of inflation and recession can be tackled with the help of reverse repo rate, inflation and recession. So if we talk about inflation, okay, see inflation में गवर्नमेंट का ऑब्जेक्टिव ये होता है, सेंट्रल बैंक का ऑब्जेक्टिव ये होता है कि लोगों के पास कम से कम पैसा रहे. दैट मीन्स लोगों की पॉकेट्स लाइट रहे, लोगों का परचेजिंग पावर कम रहे, सो दैट वो कम खर्च करें और इन्फ्लेशनरी प्रेशर कम हो इकोनॉमी में. This is the objective in inflation. And in recession, the objective is just opposite. Government सोचती है that more, and the central government thinks that more and more money should be with the people. The pockets of the people must be heavy. The purchasing power of the people must be more. Okay. So इस चीज को सोच के तुम डिसाइड कर सकते हो कि गवर्नमेंट इन्फ्लेशन में रिवर्स रेपो रेट को बढ़ाएगी कि घटाएगी. Okay. The reverse repo rate will be increased or decreased. It will be seen. So reverse repo rate क्या है? वो रेट जिसपे कमर्शियल बैंक सेंट्रल बैंक को लोन दे रहा है. तो इन्फ्लेशन में गवर्नमेंट चाहती है कि कम से कम पैसा पब्लिक के पास जाए, कम से कम पैसा कमर्शियल बैंक के पास जाए. तो वो रिवर्स रेपो रेट को बढ़ा देती है. So that कमर्शियल बैंक ज्यादा इंटरेस्ट रेट की वजह से ज्यादा लोन सेंट्रल बैंक्स को दें और ज्यादा पैसा सेंट्रल बैंक्स के पास रहे. वो पैसा कमर्शियल बैंक से एब्सॉर्ब करना चाहती है, सो दैट द कमर्शियल बैंक्स आर नॉट इन दैट मच सिचुएशन टू गिव मच लोन्स इन द पब्लिक. और रिसेशन में रिवर्स रेपो रेट को कम कर देती है, सो दैट more and more money remains with the commercial banks and they lend into the market to control the recessionary pressure in the economy. So this was your repo rate and reverse repo rate. Now, so the third quantitative credit control method is your open market operations. What is open market operations? Under open market operations, the central bank indulges in the sale and purchase of government securities and other securities, other approved securities through the money and capital markets. यहाँ पे government की securities की bonds की sale and purchase होती है. Okay. So how it will be used to tackle inflation and recession, or how they will be used to increase or decrease the availability of credit in the economy. See, when the central bank sees that there is inflation in the economy, as I've told you, that there will be high aggregate demand in case of inflation, so they want more and more money with themselves. They want to absorb the money. They want to absorb the credit from the economy. Okay, वो क्रेडिट को अपने पास लेना चाहते हैं, पैसे को अपने पास रखना चाहते हैं ताकि लोगों के पास, बैंक्स के पास कम पैसा हो. So what they do, they start selling the government securities in case of inflation. जब वो गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज को सेल करते हैं इन्फ्लेशन में, तो लोग उसको सब्सक्राइब करते हैं, उनको खरीदते हैं, और क्या होगा, लोगों के पास से, बैंक्स के पास, कमर्शियल बैंक्स के पास से पैसा सेंट्रल बैंक के पास चला जाता है. So the transfer of money, the movement of money is from the, what is the direction of movement? It is from the public and the commercial banks to the central bank, and this is what the central bank wants in case of inflation, that they are able to absorb more money. And what happens in case of recession? They will do opposite. They will start purchasing the government securities. They start purchasing the government securities, and when they purchase the government securities, so commercial bank से या public से जब वो government securities को purchase करती है, तो वो पैसा देती है उनको commercial bank और central bank को. So what is the direction of the flow of money or the credit? It is from the central bank to the public or to the commercial banks. So ऐसे economy में पैसा बढ़ेगा. Okay. So inflation में they will sell the government securities so that they can absorb more and more credit and money. And in recession, they'll start purchasing government securities so that they are able to inject more and more money and credit into the economy. This is how they use open market operations to tackle the situation of inflation and recession, or they tackle the money supply or the availability of money supply. Okay, so in the case of variable reserve ratios, there are two types of ratios: cash reserve ratio, that is your CRR, and statutory liquidity ratio, that is your SLR. Many times the difference between CRR and SLR have been asked. And why combinedly they are known as the variable reserve ratios? Variable means changeable. Okay, they can be changed. It depends upon the central bank to change the ratios, to increase or decrease the ratios. That is why it is known as the variable reserve ratio. First of all, we will discuss what is cash reserve ratio. See, every commercial bank with the law is liable to keep a portion of the deposits, a ratio, a part of the deposits with the central bank. जैसे हमने बताया था कि प्राइमरी डिपॉजिट्स का टोटल प्राइमरी और टाइम डिपॉजिट्स का एक पार्ट, एक फ्रैक्शन, कुछ परसेंटेज हर कमर्शियल बैंक्स को सेंट्रल बैंक के पास रखना होता है कैश फॉर्म में. That is your cash reserve ratio. Okay, the ratio of the total deposits of the commercial banks that they are liable with the law to keep with the central bank, that is your cash reserve ratio. And what is your statutory liquidity ratio? It is that portion of, that part of, or that fraction of total primary and time deposits that they have to keep with themselves. वो इनको खुद अपने पास रखना होता है. ज्यादातर they have to keep it in non cash form, like foreign exchange currency के फॉर्म में, गोल्ड के फॉर्म में, सिक्योरिटीज के फॉर्म में, बुलियंस के फॉर्म में रखना होता है, और कम से कम कैश के फॉर्म में रखना होता है एसएलआर को अपने पास. So cash reserve ratio is the part of primary deposits, the part of deposits of the commercial banks that they have to keep with the central bank, and this SLR is the part of the deposit that they have to keep with themselves. And both the things they have to do with liable to do by the law. If any commercial bank is not doing, they are flouting the law, and action will be taken by the central bank against those commercial banks. So how these cash reserve ratio and SLR will be used to tackle inflation and recession in the economy? Inflation and recession in the economy. See,